Okay, great. Hi, everyone. It's exciting to be here, exciting to talk to you about some of the experience that I've had in the last couple of months. You know, if you would have asked me some months ago, what's the biggest driver for change in the world in the last 25 years, I would have probably said it's been the internet, right? You would have said too, I guess. And if you would have asked me, what's the symbol of that change? I would have said, it's this one here, right? My smartphone, which kind of impacts everything that we do every step of our lives. Now, earlier this year, I joined as digital officer of LafargeHolcim, and actually I have to say it changed my view of the world. It changed essentially my perspective on what's actually going on. And I'd like to talk about that, and I'd like to tell you why I think you should be thinking about that too, and why I think it's important to consider what I call the Internet of Need and open up for new forms of innovation also in heavy industry. So let me tell you what I saw, what I experienced, 25 years of change. Take a satellite photo like this one. This is New Delhi in 1991. And this is what has happened since then. Bam. Actually, urban centers around the world have added 2 billion people in the last 25 years. 2 billion people. Every single one of those persons, right, have moved from either a rural setup, kind of, went to a city landscape, or, have grown up in a city environment. And obviously, that's a drastic change of lifestyle, change of perspective, change essentially of opportunities and possibilities. And if you think that market of people going to urban areas is maturing, maybe similar to that smartphone market, which has been flat for a time, right? There are another 2 billion people coming into cities in the next 25 years. That cities obviously includes European cities. Zurich is growing, Munich is growing, Berlin is growing, Paris is growing, London is growing. But it's actually also happening in a large part here, right? We're talking about Manila and Jakarta, we're talking about Lagos and Istanbul, we're talking about Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro, and don't get me started on those Chinese mega cities which are emerging. And now if you have a picture in your head on how life is in Manila or Jakarta, I have to say you're right in some parts, right? But you also have to think again in a lot of others. I've been to Marrakesh today. Infrastructure is amazing. If you go to Mexico City, there's some really, really very modern parts emerging. And that makes a hell of a difference for people, right? If you're a family in Delhi, it's just, a completely different set of life, a completely different set of opportunities. If, when grandma is sick, you can take her to the doctor over that new bridge. Or when your daughter is supposed to get some primary education, there's a school around the corner. Or when dad is supposed to go home for dinner, he can take the subway. Delhi, by the way, has 250 kilometers of subway now. They started in 2002. It's amazing, right? How the world is changing for billions of people while we are here, in our small, closed environment. And obviously, how that world is changing due to the product of my firm, concrete, cement, the most flexible, cheapest, most efficient way of putting that kind of infrastructure into cities. Now, obviously, those cities are developing, discussions in those cities are developing, and that little daughter that I just talked about has grown up herself and has her own little family. She'll look at the world and she'll look at building materials and cement and those bridges in a different way. Maybe a lot similar to what we think about it here in Zurich, right? She will be discussing, for sure, failing infrastructures and bridges, right? She will be discussing, how to open up the city again, get more green patches in there. She'll think a lot about affordable housing, right? Affordable housing, is that a discussion we're having in Europe right now? Well, yeah, I think we do, right? She's also thinking, of course, about sustainability issues, about CO2 footprint, about, lots of issues on reusing that material, getting it to work to some other place when it's being taken down, essentially making our planet more sustainable, more green, more environmental friendly, because all of that, you can imagine, that growth, right, that is quite some carbon footprint, you see. So if you think about that, of course, there are lots of fronts, lots of measures where people are working on all these areas to supply that material, to get it on the right spot, in the right quality, at the right cost. There's a lot of thought on how to make it more energy efficient, more flexible, better to use, packaged in the right way. But taking that amount of challenge, there's no way we can achieve that. We don't start bringing in digital talent, digital ideas, digital technology, digital things to make this work. Literally, I think that is an amazing challenge for humanity, an amazing challenge for our new ways of mastering technology and putting it to use for billions of people. But when I say this, obviously I mean a very specific set of digital ideas and technologies. Because when we come together, maybe also at an event like this, and we talk about digital, we probably think about, let's say, companies like Tesla, great digital company, Apple, love their product, Netflix, it's an amazing service, right? But what all these companies do is they kind of offer that next level, that next step of product, that next step of convenience in a world where most of your basic questions, most of your basic things are actually already addressed. I would really say, and you may have seen this and read about this in quite some other presentations and talks, they create an internet of want. That stuff I want, right? And I think for an industry like ours, it's great to see that there's also a second internet emerging, as an internet that might be a little bit more down to earth, right? A little bit more basic, but which creates amazing platforms, amazing technologies, just in the same way. Think about these guys. Grab. Yes, it's Uber in Indonesia, I get it, right? But it's really empowering tens of thousands of small, medium enterprises in Indonesia. It's a huge engine for growth of enabling local entrepreneurs in Jakarta. Amazing, amazing company. Think about these guys, of course, Taobao. Oh yeah, they're a little bit like Amazon, I get it. But what they're actually about is, they're about that, rural population in mainland China, which has been decoupled from growth, allowing them to find new ways to access clients on the coast and sell their products there, and thus, contribute to a new building, growing society of more economic affluence. Or think about those guys. They've been around for a while. M-Pesa actually started with calling card credits and SMSs on essentially feature phones, right? It was called Nokia. I don't know whether you guys remember. And it served essentially a severely underbanked population in sub-Saharan Africa with new financial services, and is in place today as one of the most thriving platforms of that planet. So quite amazing, and I call this part of the internet of need. And I think there's lots of things that technology can do for these billions of people with these very basic questions, helping them essentially make life better little by little, but for a huge population around there. And I'm proud to say, and I'm happy to see that actually also my company, LafargeHolcim, has been thinking and has been working on this actually already before I joined, I have to say, right? And we're actually working around these propositions in small baby steps in many different areas across the globe, really trying to make life better in that part of the economic area. So this is, for example, affordable housing in Ecuador. There was a huge earthquake in that part of the world. People needed new houses, new living conditions. And instead of just providing essentially the basic building materials, the company in Ecuador really tried to design the full house, offer plots of land, bring in already the craftsmen that can provide the work, and thus set up new population, new habitants for these people. Or think about this example in India. Actually, in India, building materials are sold to thousands and thousands of independent retailers who literally trade, bags of cement or bags of steel, or bars of steel to people willing to build houses. And we are working on enabling those retailers with digital apps, helping them, manage their stock, creating, giving you ideas on how to approach customers, controlling the order book, explaining how to give credit, and professionalizing that industry. We also have great examples in a place like Africa, where we work on road safety. We depend a lot on independent truck drivers in that part of the globe. And we're working with GPS signals, braking information, and so on to really train people, educate people on how to be more safe on the road, reduce essentially road accidents, health and safety. So it's this kind of thing that the company is already thinking about, and that it's good at empowering local communities, empowering local people, building engagement for change. But it's really a question whether that's really all there is, or whether that's actually just a drop in the ocean, right? We have some 150 initiatives of this sort. I didn't want to list all of them, right? Because I guess there's a second speaker coming. But also on the other side, this actually is a huge company. Overall, LafargeHolcim is operating 2,300 production sites across the globe. We're producing 600 million tons of product, right? For everyone from Switzerland, no, there are no 600 million tons of Toblerone out there. It's a lot of stuff. Actually, in many regions where we operate, we're the biggest operator of bulk freight in logistics. We're just the biggest network out there when it comes to heavy industry. Second, we're actually in 80 countries. And I don't mean we have sales offices in 80 countries. We actually operate our own logistics network, our own production plants, our own sales and marketing teams, product management, business development. Just as an example, if you wonder, what's that cool new fashion I brought from Berlin? It's actually not true. This is actually the corporate T-shirt from Billier Cement, which is our subsidiary in Ivory Coast, right? It's actually made as a cement bag. I'll just turn around. You can see the product information. And I mean, think about that level of passion. Think about that level of connection to your product that exists in a country like Ivory Coast, where people really believe that Abidjan can be a better city for their people through our product, through essentially everything that can provide in terms of infrastructure, in terms of buildings, in terms of making life more livable in a city like that. Third part, of course, is if you look at this network from a purely digital perspective, the opportunities that we see are endless, right? It's a freaking big industrial network, right? You can think about production, you can think about energy consumption, you can think about the way how we run that huge logistic network. You can think about how we provide sales, how we enable essentially our sales partners. You can think about all topics around circular economy, around the environment. It's amazing what you can potentially do, right? And I'm pretty confident, if I see how the internet has developed in every other part. It was kind of, we had all these big hopes and dreams for many technologies, and some of them actually emerged. Others, we're still waiting for. But what seems to be clear is, the internet does not evolve for the people who have the smartest idea or the biggest part of technology or like the best algorithm. The internet evolves with these things match the use case in the actual network. They need to match the use case. It's true for media, it's true for games, it's true for, commerce, and it's certainly going to be true for the industrial internet as well. And what we bring to the table is that huge network, those 600 million tons of products, that, vast ocean of use cases that we can jointly look into and see what's in it for humanity, for, doing joint business together for innovation. And the other thing is, obviously, tuning technology to those use cases, really making sure we understand the differences or understand the intricacies of making that work. That's obviously something where a lot of thinking needs to go into. That's obviously something where a lot of talk needs to happen, a lot of design needs to happen. And that's why, I think, people who are passionate enough about their business to wear a T-shirt like this, right? They're also passionate enough to sit down to help us understand how these networks operate, to help us understand how to make use of technology in the very specific sense, leveraging those digital ideas time and time again to the entire breadth of our organization, of our operations. And that's why I am convinced that looking at a broad industrial network like this one, looking at the broad range of opportunities, of capabilities, looking at the purpose and the meaning of this in the broader context of our emerging civilization, I think we need to reach out to people like you. We need to reach out to the open innovation communities. We need to see how we can get this thing on the next level, helping fulfill the promise that's in a starting position like this. So, summing up, I believe that we have an industrial base out there which will create learnings and insights which really make that industrial network come to life, which really make that idea of what Industry 4.0, the industrial internet or whatever, we will really be able to make it come to life, to see in practice what that means on a company of that size, on a technology base, brownfield base of that size. Our teams on the ground can connect you to local ecosystems, can connect to local partners, can try to figure out how technology that we come up here, algorithms or IoT sensors or stacks of new ideas and platforms can really make an impact, can really make a difference on a sector like this. And that's why we're here, I'm standing here, to start thinking about launching an open innovation journey for something like heavy industries. And if you think about it, if you think about how untouched that sector is, if you think about how broad that impact is for humanity, I'm asking all of you, I'm asking every single one here in this room, everyone who sees this at a later stage, you know, we need to work on that platform. We need to start going on this. We need to see jointly how technology can help, you know, in a sector like building materials, actually like in many other sectors around heavy industries. And I know we're just at the start of the journey, but I hope you get the vision, I hope you get the image that might be behind this and how you can drive this to essentially the next level of evolution. Thanks, everyone.